Okay, imagine an ecosystem. So vital people call it the lungs of the earth, home to maybe a tenth of all known species, and just crucial for our climate. Today, we're diving into how we can, better protect the Amazon rainforest. We're looking at a new financial strategy that's, well, it seems pretty groundbreaking.
Yeah, and what's really interesting right off the bat is this shift in how conservation is being funded. We've got this new $50 million capital markets initiative. It's from Everland, and they're partnering with BNP Paribas.
Right.
And this isn't like your typical grant funding. It's a whole financial structure designed to directly back indigenous-led conservation right there in the Amazon.
Exactly. The source we have is a press release from Everland that's dated April 30th, 2025. And it really lays out how Everland BNP Paribas bringing the financial clout, the standards set by something called the Equitable Earth Standard. And critically, the indigenous communities themselves are all working together. So our mission today for you listening is to really get under the hood of this initiative. How does it work? Why is it a big deal? And what's the potential impact? Both for the rainforest and for people living there. Ready to jump in.
Absolutely. So the big picture here is about mobilizing, well, serious funding for the communities who are honestly best positioned to protect these forests. This first $50 million, it's meant to be a catalyst,
A starting point.
Yeah. Driving action on climate, nature, sustainable development goals. It's a recognition that, look, large-scale change needs serious investment.
And this initial funding, it's quite targeted, isn't it? It's set to launch the first 20 indigenous-led REDD Plus projects in the Amazon. Now, for anyone maybe less familiar, REDD Plus space, it's essentially a framework, right? Puts a financial value on the carbon locked up in forests, gives incentives to cut down on deforestation and degradation.
Precisely. And all these projects will be certified under this Equitable Earth Standard we mentioned.
Right.
And the initial geographic focus, that's strategic too. They're prioritizing projects located within Panthera's Jaguar Corridor.
The Jaguar Corridor.
Yeah, if you think a bigger picture, this corridor is absolutely vital for jaguar populations across the Americas. It helps maintain genetic diversity.
Yeah.
But importantly, as the press release points out, these are also areas lived in and protected by indigenous communities.
Right. Communities with deep knowledge of these ecosystems.
Exactly. So it's hitting two targets, protecting crucial biodiversity and supporting the actual stewards of that biodiversity.
So this $50 million kicks things off, gets the conservation activities going. But then, and this is where I think it gets really interesting, these activities are designed to generate something called high-integrity carbon credits over like the next 40 years.
40 years, yeah. And the financial model itself is built for the long term. The projection they have is that selling these carbon credits could bring in over $1 billion.
$1 billion, wow.
Yeah, just within the first 10 years.
Yeah.
So this isn't just a quick cash injection. It's meant to create a sustainable financial engine for ongoing conservation, ongoing community support, moving beyond just relying on traditional aid.
Okay, you mentioned the Equitable Earth Standard again. That sounds like it's pretty central to this whole thing. What makes it, stand out?
Well, what's really key, I think, is that this standard has a non-negotiable requirement built in. It demands a fair and equitable revenue-sharing plan with the indigenous and traditional communities involved.
Non-negotiable.
Yes. It makes sure the financial benefits from those carbon credits actually flow directly to the communities. It empowers them to invest in what they see as their priorities. It's fundamental, really, to making sure conservation is both effective and, frankly, just.
We actually have some direct words from indigenous leaders in the press release. It really brings it home. Chief Euron Anderson Surui of the Pater Surui people, he points out, look, their communities have protected these forests for generations. They understand how vital they are for all life. He emphasizes that, climate finance decisions often just bypass them completely. But this initiative, it seems to offer a direct path for indigenous communities to get the funding they need to protect their lands and their cultures.
And there's another voice, too, Por Tembe, who is Brazil's Minister of Indigenous Peoples for the state of Pará. She highlights how this initiative recognizes their way of life, their essential role in the global climate fight.
Yeah.
For too long, the focus was just on exploiting these forests. But now, the Equitable Earth Standard helps channel this carbon finance directly to the communities who've been the guardians all along.
Yeah.
Gives them the means to shape their own future.
So where does a huge financial institution like BNP Paribas fit into all this? What's their specific role?
Well, BNP Paribas, they're structuring the actual financial mechanisms,
Yeah.
making it all work, basically.
Hmm.
Their global chief sustainability officer, Constance Chalchat, she emphasizes that protecting natural resources, it's fundamental for long-term economic stability.
Makes sense.
And they were apparently drawn to Everland's focus on these community-led projects, ones that prioritize both community well-being and biodiversity protection. It aligns with their own sustainability targets.
Okay, so BNP Paribas structures the finance, and Everland seems to be the engine on the ground making these projects happen.
That's a good way to put it. Everland is central, really. They're handling the identification, the rigorous assessment of potential projects, doing all the due diligence to make sure they meet the standards,
Right.
and overseeing the project development so they hit those funding milestones. Plus, they'll be the ones marketing and selling the carbon credits generated on the international market.
It sounds like a pretty robust system, very well structured.
Yeah.
The press release also mentions this payment for performance model under the Equitable Earth Standard. How does that actually work in practice?
Yeah, that's a critical piece. It ensures accountability, effectiveness. It basically means the indigenous and traditional communities involved get direct financial investment based on their demonstrable success.
Success in what?
Success in conserving these vital ecosystems. The financial rewards are directly tied to achieving tangible, measurable conservation outcomes. It's not just funding for effort. It's funding for results.
Got it. Performance-based. And the repeated focus back on the Jaguar corridor, it highlights that this isn't just about protecting one specific animal, is it?
No, absolutely not. The Jaguar corridor acts more like a crucial umbrella for conservation. By focusing on protecting this core jaguar population within the Amazon, the initiative aims to safeguard literally millions of hectares of forest.
Millions.
Millions. Forest that's vital not just for jaguars, but for a huge array of other species, depending on those ecosystems. And crucially, these are also the ancestral lands of the indigenous and traditional communities.
The guardians, as you said.
Exactly. The ones who've been their guardians for generations. That interconnectedness, species, ecosystem, community, that's a core principle here.
Okay, let's clarify this term, high-integrity carbon credits. What does that specifically mean here, and why is that distinction, high integrity, so important?
Right. High integrity basically signals that the climate impact is rigorously measured and, importantly, verified. These projects are aiming to prevent ongoing deforestation that would release significant amounts of co-euros.
Okay.
So each carbon credit represents 1 metric ton of co-euro emissions that has been verifiably avoided. And unlike maybe some other offset schemes you hear about, these credits have to undergo independent third-party verification.
Ah, the third-party check.
Exactly. That ensures they represent real and additional emission reductions. It gives companies, a credible way to address their own emissions while directly supporting this kind of vital conservation work.
So if we zoom out a bit, look at the bigger picture, what's the real global significance of an initiative like this?
Well, globally, we're facing these twin crises, right? Climate change and biodiversity loss, both fueled significantly by deforestation. Now, indigenous peoples, they have this long-proven history of effectively protecting the world's forests.
Yeah, decades, centuries even.
Centuries, absolutely. Yet, historically, they've often lacked the financial resources needed to continue doing that vital work, especially against mounting pressures. So this initiative is significant because it directly acknowledges and crucially supports that indigenous ecological expertise through direct investment.
It's putting the money where the knowledge is, in a sense.
Precisely.
Yep.
It provides the financial mechanisms needed for these communities to pursue their own conservation goals, protect some of the planet's most critical ecosystems, which ultimately benefits everyone, everywhere.
And it sounds like this isn't happening in a vacuum. It seems to have gathered some pretty significant backing and fits into wider global efforts.
Oh, absolutely. The announcement itself was made at the Global Citizen and No Use Summit. That brings together global leaders, financial institutions, indigenous representatives, quite a platform.
Definitely.
And beyond that, this initiative strongly aligns with President Lula's commitment in Brazil to boost investment in Amazon protection. Especially significant, maybe, as Brazil gears up to host COP30 in Belém.
Ah, right, COP30 and the Amazon itself.
Exactly. So it really underscores this vital role of indigenous-led conservation, backed by private sector finance, in tackling these huge global climate challenges we face.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. If you had to really boil it down, what are the absolute key takeaways from this initiative for you?
Key takeaways. For me, number one is the innovative financial model linking conservation results directly to financial returns for indigenous communities.
Right.
It's huge.
Right.
Second, the central respected role of indigenous leadership in these projects. Third, that dual focus protecting biodiversity and supporting community development, not seeing them as separate. And finally, I think the sheer potential for this model to scale up in such a critical region.
And for you listening to this, why should this particular initiative matter? Why should it grab your attention?
Well, because I think this offers a really concrete, tangible example of how financial systems can be redesigned. They can be used to tackle some of our most urgent global problems, climate, biodiversity loss, while at the same time empowering the communities who are actually best placed to implement the solutions on the ground.
Yeah.
It really highlights the power of these innovative partnerships and, frankly, the ethical need to center indigenous voices and rights in conservation.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with. As you consider this, ask yourself, could this approach, this way of connecting carbon markets with direct investment in indigenous-led conservation, could that be a pathway for safeguarding other vital ecosystems around the world? What role can these kinds of innovative financial models play in truly empowering local communities to be the guardians of our planet? It's definitely something worth thinking more about.